Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here to talk to you about blockchain for social impact. Okay, I've been with Consensys for almost 2 years now, and we created the Blockchain for Social Impact Coalition, and we have a whole team that works on social impact issues. So usually I give a broader speech about all the items that we cover, from environment, supply chain, financial inclusion, identity and vulnerable population, voting and democracy, and supporting human rights activists. But today, I wanted to focus on 3 topics which I think are the most relevant on the investment side in terms of financial returns and also creating greater impact. So environment, supply chain, and financial inclusions, which I'm going to get into the detail of. If I can make... So in general, the overall industry trends in the investment world is that regulatory scrutiny will increase, but we think it's a real opportunity for the industry to mature. The line between token launches and equity finance will blur, and that's also an opportunity for different investors to get involved, including traditional impact investors or more institutional investors. Venture activity will increase, and the funding pipeline is growing, so good news coming up. The 2 interesting trends in terms of the apps themselves is that they're going to need to deploy to the public, reach other audiences than the crypto community, and that's going to be a challenge throughout the industry, not only for social impact. And traditional tech companies are going to create their own tokens or work with traditional token companies to decentralize. So the first opportunity that we see is environment and climate. And in that space, we see further decentralization and really creating opportunities for peer-to-peer energy trading, creating new carbon marketplaces, and increasing the CO2 offsets. On the supply chain, the results of recording, tracking, verifying certification, digital tagging, and real-time monitoring will create enhanced transparency, greater scalability, and better security, and also innovation for the manufacturing world as a whole. So we see this as a huge opportunity to invest in these companies. And on the financial inclusion side, what we see is that 1.7 billion people in the world are unbanked. Either financial institutions cannot include them within the constraints of their regulatory realm, or they're not, interestingly enough, as clients for them to be banked. And the most common reason is they just don't have enough money, right? And so we need to find a way to create new infrastructure for people who have been excluded from the banking system. And it doesn't mean that we need to bring them in the banking system. I think there's new opportunities there. And also banked customers, like a lot of people who have cryptocurrency accounts and are very active in the markets, may want also other opportunities. So there's ways to create peer-to-peer, faster, cheaper payments, create new customer-centric models, and revolutionize, I would say, those credit scores and the way we use customer data. So I'm going to go into all the different opportunities. I have some examples up there. Some of them are doing token sales. This is not a recommendation to invest in any of them, just full disclosure. I just wanted to show the breadth of the different models that are out there, and see if that's of interest to you. So in the renewable energy, we said, there's the opportunity for peer-to-peer trading using microgrids, smart meters, and that's really an exciting space. The second largest space is the carbon offset and trading. There's a lot of companies that are trying to decentralize the marketplace and create faster ways to offset credit carbons. we see some really interesting and innovative models in recycling. Where people are trying to change consumer habits or the habits of larger companies for recycling. Then waste management and conservation database. So some examples in the renewable energy are these peer-to-peer trading systems where we try to incentivize lower cost and use of energy. And you have companies like Grid Plus or Switch that are also in this space. MPEG, for example, is trying to provide solar energy and financing facilities for people in the developing world, and so that they can trade also through tokenized economy. So those are huge opportunities to either work off-grid or also work with the grid. So these do not always exclude the incumbents. You know, energy companies are looking into this too. So it's not just new models that you create, you also create them with the existing energy providers. On the carbon offsetting and trading, these are two examples that we have. The Nori platform allows to, you know, to trade directly carbon emissions and put together the suppliers and the people who emit carbon to verify that the removal of the carbon is really taking place. Project Poseidon, like other projects, is trying to focus more on the behavior of the consumers so that the consumers can feel empowered to measure their carbon footprint and to offset it. So that's another model that we've seen a lot with the consumers. It's a little bit harder to get the consumers to change, so finding the right model to do that is really important. Then recycling, there's also people working with Plastic Bank who are trying to encourage recycling behavior through the token economy. And I think that's a really interesting model that a lot of people are looking into. Waste management. So this is a really interesting example where the Dutch government is trying to look at how the transportation of toxic waste is conducted. And right now, everything is done on paper. There's a lot of errors. It's complicated. And through the blockchain, they're trying to streamline this process so that it's more secure, you know, for the citizens and also for the process overall. Then we have this conservation database. This is more like a global, I would say, platform that wants to create awareness about conservation projects and also find a database that is secure and verified so that people can use it also for other projects. So just building the ecosystem in that sense. So those were a few examples on the energy side. It's a really exciting space. There's, you know, projects coming in and out every day. I think, you know, you want to look at the quality of the teams, as one of the previous presenters said, and really think about how much they understand the traditional markets and how they're able to combine it with blockchain and crypto economics. On the supply chain side, as we've seen, there's proof of ownership. It improves the inventory. You can reduce paperwork. There's a lot of advantages to invest in supply chain. There's also a lot of clients, so potentially we think this is a great opportunity. In terms of impact, what happens in the supply chain and how people focus on impact is they want to see provenance. They want to see the origin of the products. They also want to make sure that the supply chains are secure, that there's no slave labor, there's no slavery involved, and there's no tampering with the goods. So the World Wildlife Fund partnered with Consensys to track tuna, red tuna that was fished in Fiji, The fishery industry is tainted with slavery and slave labor, and has a lot of potential for fraud. And we hope that through using blockchain solutions, we can reduce significantly that amount of fraud and inefficiencies. Same thing with the food safety. This original trail program helps people identify the origin of the goods and send them directly to the labs for verification, but making sure that those samples are not tampered with throughout their journey to the labs is what this company is trying to achieve. So we see different applications of supply chain. On the child labor aspect, there are pilots right now in the DRC, where the extraction of cobalt is a very difficult problem because there's a lot of child slavery involved, and maybe the supply chain blockchain solution will not solve for everything, but at least we have verificators on the ground. You have more streamlined operations, and we're trying to tackle that issue through the blockchain. And as I said before, the blockchain is not going to solve everything. The real world problems are there. But if we can put in systems to help solve for that, we hope that it has a positive impact. So I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to go into the financial inclusion. So usually people who are excluded from the traditional banking have income volatility. It's difficult for them to access the banks, whether they're because of their geographic location or just financial literacy, and the banks really don't want to look at those as those clients. So we need to solve for that, and we can do that through several projects. One is remittances, and that's a big aspect of the blockchain for social impact. I would say initiatives. So Cora Network or Mizigo, BankQ, Evrex, everything that is either an exchange or that targets remittances, like also BitPesa. BitPesa lowered the cost of remittances to 1%, where the average is 7% in the world, when you have fees up to 15%. So it's huge when you think about the amounts that are sent across families that are in need. So all these solutions apply to the banked and the unbanked. So that's what's pretty exciting, and it has like a really wide marketplace opportunity. And we see that they're very efficient in creating customer-focused solutions. The other two examples that I'm going to talk about is WeTrust and Circle, which looks at personal reputation and ties it to lending and other possibilities. So it's creating new institutions for the unbanked, where they don't need to have the traditional reputation or credit scores in order to get loans or to be involved in the financial systems. And the last one I wanted to mention is a company called Colendi, which is focused specifically on credit scores through the blockchain, and it's trying really to revolutionize the way we look at credit scores, because credit scores have been established for a long time in a different context than the world of the internet that we live in. And so taking into account everything and a holistic view of the person, we think is the way to go. So I have 0 seconds left. I wanted to thank you, and I hope that looking at these examples, you can dig into other examples who are in the space, and I think look at these great opportunities to make an impact and also a great return. Thank you.